Good morning, everybody. I'm Lisa Stone with Parenting Aces, and we are joined by Andy Findlay, a coach from Erie, Pennsylvania. First of all, I want to just say a happy Mother's Day yesterday to everybody. I hope everybody had a great time, and I am relegated to the floor of my bedroom this morning for the live stream. I've got my husband's on a mediation in the office. My son drove down from the Bay Area and he is set up outside doing his work. So I'm locked up in the bedroom, sitting on the floor. Andy, how are you?
Good. Let me add a belated happy Mother's Day to everybody out there in the middle of this.
Yeah, it's been crazy. And, you know, it's funny. People that have been tuning in through all this know I recently moved to Southern California from Atlanta to be closer to all three of my kids. And then this lockdown happens and I can't see any of my kids. And we kind of made a family decision that we were going to all be together on Mother's Day yesterday. Everybody's been quarantined this whole past 8 weeks. So we felt pretty comfortable being together and ended up having a really nice day. So it was a good treat for me.
Well, let's hope you can do a real good get together in August or sometime optimistically soon.
Yeah, for sure. So why don't you give our audience a little bit of background on what you are doing in Erie? Your resume is too long. It would take the whole hour just to talk about your history in tennis and all the great work you've done. But I want to say a quick thank you to Matt Manassi for putting us in contact with one another.
Yeah, excellent. Here in Erie, we're actually on a snow day, which is a record for us. And I know we it's not settling, but it's a no outdoor tennis day.
Wow.
So basically in Pennsylvania, we got a bit of a break up here in terms of red, yellow, and green, where we got moved into yellow by Governor Wolf on Friday, which means that we can put outdoor tennis together with restrictions, expecting quite heavy restrictions everywhere. But there's, I believe it's 24 counties out of 67, which are northernmost in PA, have got this yellow. And that would leave, by my math, like 44 counties, whatever it is, that makes up the difference in southern PA that don't have, they're still in red. So they're kind of jealous of us. But we can't hit a ball. Yeah, but we can't hit a ball today. But tomorrow we should start hitting the 60s, which is about 10 below where you're at in California.
Yeah.
And that's still good for outdoor tennis. So we got a lot of things in place here. You know, there's so many resources out there. It's fantastic that we have this level of resources. It's sad that we have to have them, but it's a twilight zone that we're going into.
Seriously. So my understanding is you've been on lots of calls over the past several weeks with USTA, with other coaches, with the sections, trying to really develop and devise and hone in on a set of guidelines to help everybody return to tennis in a safe way that not only is going to help them, you know, hopefully avoid catching COVID-19, which is the big goal here, but also help them return to the courts in a way so that they won't get injured or, you know, get otherwise sidelined by something non-COVID-19 related. Can you talk a little bit about who you've been in talks with and what kinds of things you're hearing around the country and specifically what you guys are going to be doing in the Erie area?
Sure. I mean, I'm in touch on webinars and such with USPTA, which is actually going on right now. So I'm selecting this over.
We feel honored. Thank you.
Okay. It's okay. You're worth it. Okay. And USTA and our middle state section, and everybody's absolutely exceeding expectations. I mean, I think there's a little bit of a legal fear out there so that we do the right thing. And safety is the big word. And I think people, especially parents, you know, your parent, you know, your theme is a parent acing thing here. Okay. I think before your parents bring kids to the court, they've got to consider before tennis, during tennis, and after tennis. And I'm going to use this kind of word, touchless tennis. Okay. So it's our job as coaches, how much we can make this touchless tennis and reduce risk. Obviously, stay at home is the maximum risk reduction. Reality comes in. I mean, we're in the yellow zone here, and tennis, right there alongside golf and walking and running. You know, we can get outside now, but we got to do it with respect because this virus is in charge. So if I make a couple of comments before tennis, the opening comment is temperature. Okay, do not go to the courts if your temperature is 100.4 or above, and be willing to have your temperature taken, although there's legal rules on how much that information can be shared, but you can voluntarily do things like this. And if you step on court, everyone in sight has to know that you don't have one of the big three symptoms, you know, with a fever. Obviously that's temperature and coughing and chills and things like that. So, you know, are there other symptoms? Yeah. Could you be asymptomatic? Yeah. But if you minimize the risk, you're being as safe as you can be.
Right. Right. And I mean, it's interesting because I've talked about this in other forums, but the club that I belong to here in Orange County reopened last Monday, and they sent out a very specific list of guidelines. They have them posted at the club on signage. I haven't been yet, but I'm told they have them posted. And interestingly, one of the guidelines is you must wear a mask when walking through the indoor area. So if you are in the building, you must have a mask on. And what they were finding is the kids coming back were ignoring that rule. They were not wearing masks. And so they've had to implement a secondary kind of policy. They sent out another set of emails to all the members saying, here's the deal. If your kid shows up and doesn't have on a mask, the first time we'll give them a mask. The second time, we're going to charge them $25 for that mask. So make sure your kid wears a mask. And it was interesting to me that the adults seem to be following the policy, but the juniors, not so much. So in addition to taking a temperature reading before coming to the courts, what else are you seeing people do, and what are you doing to make the environment safe?
Well, sure. Let me respond to the mask. The mask's pretty simple. Okay. If you're within 6 foot or threatening being with 6 foot everyone, you put the mask on. Okay. Outside that, the mask is on your body, such as me right now, and you move it up when you have to. Mm-hmm. So, you know, going through gates is threatening. Okay. If the club's really sharp, they could leave the gate open and help with that area of touchless tennis. Okay. And, you know, put your stuff, don't even take stuff out on the court. One racket, one towel, one can of balls that you own, and one can of water that you own, and go and separate it as much as possible. Okay. 2 different net posts. If you're allowing 4 people, you can go to 4 corners of the court. You know, we can put spots out there, which are these 6 foot distancing spots. And by the way, I recommend 10 foot. Why 6 foot with a slipstream is less than 6 foot. Mm-hmm. 10 foot gives you, you know, reducing the risk. Okay, so and especially with kids, you know, they're really not up to this, okay, and they don't want to hear any of this, but they do know that adults are going to tell them there's rules, and they do know they're going to have to follow them. So minimize what goes through that gate. That stuff has to stay in the car.
Right.
And you even mentioned your club in California. If you're in the building, you know, most clubs you can't go in the building. Okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, bathroom, 1-shot deal, sanitize before, sanitize after. Yeah, I mean, it's got to happen, but basically the building's out of bounds.
Right. And for our club, to be fair and just kind of to explain it, to get to the courts, you have to go through the building. There's no way to get to the courts. And our club is only open for members, no guests right now. So the bummer for me is I'm not ready to go back out and play with other people. My husband's here right now, but he's not a member of the club. I have an individual membership, so I can't even go hit with him, which kind of stinks, but I get it. And I think it's the right policy for now. I think it's a great way to get back out there. Are you out coaching individuals right now, Andy?
First lesson tomorrow.
Okay. And will it be a private lesson, or will you
Correct.
have a group?
Private, max 2. I have both set up tomorrow. And
so how are you going to handle those lessons? What are some of the things you're going to do?
Okay, so obviously those people have been email texted the rules and regulations beforehand, and if they can't conform to them, then we have to delay it. But if they can, we can go. Okay. And these people are so itching to go hit.
Yeah.
Let's face it, tennis courts are for hitting tennis balls on, and not for looking like the Twilight Zone, which we're going through. So let's get some tennis balls hit, but let's get them hit safely. I kind of have my kids bringing a can of balls. If they want to serve, they use only their tennis balls, okay, so that we stay in the best touchless area possible there, okay. Obviously, they can't. I want them sanitizing. I mean, we're going to almost spray them down as they come through the gate, okay. I mean,
you have to. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, like, what does a guy going to the beehive do? He goes to the store and gets a bee suit, okay, and he doesn't get stung. Well, we're almost in this bubble world right now where if we're going to go outdoors, we need to push to that extent to be safe and protect both us and everybody in sight. Okay, so let me add a couple of tips here, okay. Obviously, try and use a racquetball foot pickup, okay. Minimize the touching.
Meaning, don't pick up the balls with your hands. Use your racket and your foot and push the ball against your foot and pull the ball up that way.
Sure. Yeah, and that would go into touchless tennis best can be. I do have a way through that, because I know people out here are looking for some tips. How can we strive to be perfect and not be perfect and be safe? Okay, so if you use the ball tubes, okay, you've got, like, let's say you've got blue, red, yellow, and clear. Okay, you spray the ball tube down beforehand. Your kids like ball tubes, adults don't. Okay, your kids can pick balls up with the ball tubes. Okay, and not touch a ball. Okay, and that ball tube's been sprayed down massively beforehand, and if you want, during and absolutely after, before a next person gets their hands on it. But we all got ball tubes, and they could be used safely.
Right.
Good tip, not showing up on written stuff, but I mean, let's face it, us pros really don't want to pick all the balls up at the end of the lesson.
You're tired by the end, especially after a full day.
Yeah, well, we're tired, but we still don't want to pick the balls up, even if we're not tired.
That's the kid's job. So when you're actually teaching a lesson, are you staying on opposite side of the net from your player the entire time?
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much do that in junior teaching anyway, so that really doesn't make the difference. The mask, if you approach the net, you lift the mask, okay? And if ideally you keep the kid at the other side, maybe service line max, and you're within 6 foot, obviously, but make that 10 foot because it is beyond that. There's no reason we got to do a lot more live hitting. We got to do a lot less net talking.
Right.
And to provide that safety, okay. I mean, you got to drink water. So we really can't supply the water because that's at risk. Obviously, in emergencies, we're telling kids and adults to drink water. So, we could spray down that bottle of water and give it to you. It might taste a little different, but it's safe. Trump would go for that one. Yeah. Possibly consider wearing a glove on one hand. Although I'm not sure quite how gloves are going to really work, because you unless you throw them away, unless they're one-time use, okay. Washing your hands is better. So,
are you keeping hand sanitizer out on the court too?
On every net post and on every gate.
Okay.
And if you don't use it, we will. And again, if you don't, we'll spray you down.
Right. So the onus right now seems to really be on the teaching pros to enforce these guidelines and these behaviors, and to get the kids, developing these habits, and, being very clear that if you don't follow these guidelines, you will not be allowed to play.
Yeah. And I think kids and adults, I mean, this is a new world. We've had, in my lifetime, we've had the Hong Kong flu in 1968. We've had several wars, and you can go right back to the Second World War, which is before my lifetime. We've had 9/11. We've had Middle East wars. We've had all that, but we've never had this level of lockdown. So even adults haven't, over under 70 haven't really gone through this. So they come into the same boat. But adults, bit more likely to grasp what it takes to stay safe. Kids, you need a bit of cajoling. You might need the role model. Okay. I mean, with a kid, if you've got two kids on the court, one of them can't conform, they go in tennis timeout for a couple of minutes and get the message over.
Yeah.
And have the parents, help enforce everything.
Sure.
A lot of this has got to be done beforehand. If you leave this up to the beginning of the lesson, there's going to be unnecessary stoppages and discussions that can be taken care of through, emails and so, every media thing that there is out there.
So what you're doing and suggesting is that the coach have communication with the player prior to the lesson, outlining what the rules and guidelines are for participating in tennis on this day, because let's face it, these guidelines are going to evolve as we learn more, or as the virus subsides, or God forbid it surges again. So this is really, these guidelines have to be kind of fluid right now, but you have to have whatever the guidelines are on the day of your lesson. That's what you need to abide by, right?
Sure. I mean, it's fluid, but more than that, this is called signage. Okay. So whether your signage is, you can't just limit it to emails and texts. Okay. It's got to be on the gate. Okay. And you're describing a waiver, quite honestly. Okay.
Right.
So the smartest of us will have you sign a waiver and bring a waiver. Okay. And there's plenty of them out there. I have one ready. If anyone needs it, I can get it to them. Is that a bit of a stretch? I mean, it's pretty obvious what needs doing. But if you don't fully trust the situation out there, get that waiver signed, and it might save a little bit of legal down the road. And
Right.
It is fluid. I mean, keep this on files on your computer, because I'm optimistic here. I think we're going to see recovery. Everything that's happened in the past has had a recovery that has put us into what we know as a normal. I think
Right.
we're going to go into a new abnormal. Okay, certainly for a while.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, have the parents sign a waiver. I mean, the kid signing a waiver is not worth it. The kid reading it's worth it.
Right.
And keep it on one page.
Yeah, for sure. And if coaches out there or parents out there, if you'd like to get a copy of the waiver that Andy's using, if you just put your email address in the comments here, Andy will send that to you when we're done. I'll send Andy a list of email addresses, so it makes it easy for him, and he can just reply and get those out.
All for that. All for that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you, Andy, you said you're doing private lessons, but also more than one kid on the court. So how will the more than one kid on the court lesson look?
Well, I mean, two, if effectively you can get a lot of live ball hitting, which is very good, and the pros at the net. I mean, you're at this point, you're now 39 foot apart, okay, given a 78-foot court. So,
Right.
And you can do drills that are a bit closer than that, no problem. But I mean, two people, absolutely no issue. Yeah, can you stretch it to three? Can you stretch it to four? Yeah, but I think we got to start with the 1-2 situation and get a feel for safety.
Right. It's interesting because, again, talking about my club, because this is my only experience directly, my club's open for doubles, and I have been asked, my phone was blowing up all day yesterday. My women's league team is itching to get back out, and they're arranging doubles, matches every day. I'm just not there. I'm not ready to be on a court with 3 other people. I'm not even ready to be on the court with 1 other person, but what's your feeling about doubles play and how we can get back to feeling comfortable being on a court with 3 other people?
Yeah, I mean, certainly my area, and I think Erie is kind of the 100th city in the country. So if you can sell it in Erie, you can sell it anywhere. How about doubles, singles, doubles, singles, doubles, singles? And then you don't have, say you have 6 courts, you don't have 24 people just squeezing inside that 25 gathering maximum. You've got a little bit more safety built in. So, I mean, people want to play doubles. Singles is a great opportunity to increase your fitness here, but still, I would say 80% of the people out there are selecting doubles. Mm-hmm. So they're going to push the envelope. They're going to want to play. Can you have a slightly, I mean, it's all about down the middle. I like teaching down the middle solves the riddle, and that's obviously for better doubles. Maybe we got to give an extra point if you go down the alleyway.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe there's some creativity here to reduce the contact in the middle. I do think if we can come back in what I'll call a recreational competitive manner and not be too competitive, and we all are, okay, then we can maybe let a few balls go through the middle and survive a few weeks here of safety.
Okay.
But
It's
definitely
interesting.
double singles, double singles, double singles. Let's not have doubles, and look like we're gathering at the rate of 25 people or more.
Yeah. So last week, Dr. Neeru Jayanthi did a webinar on getting back to tennis safely, and it was more geared toward recreational tennis. And one of the things he said was singles only, maximum 45 minutes on the court, because you don't want people getting to the point where they're exhausted, and that if you get exhausted, maybe your immune system is compromised, momentarily, until you fully recover. And so there's no point in getting to that stage of things where you're competing for more than 45 minutes and wearing yourself down. And I'm going to be sharing his presentation on our COVID-19 page on parentingaces.com. So those of you interested in looking at that, that'll be up in a little bit. But I thought it was interesting that he set that 45-minute limit and that he was geared really toward rec play. We know junior tennis is currently shut down. There are no tournaments happening. However, we're starting to see some UTR events pop up here and there. And obviously, Tennis Channel has been broadcasting. They've got an event going on down in Florida. We've got a professional event going on in Germany, but they're playing 4-game sets, no ad scoring. So do you see junior tennis kind of phasing back in terms of junior competition by also using these short formats, no ad scoring? Or what are you hearing about that?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the UTR event in Florida at a private court, undisclosed, okay, with no spectators, streaming, one umpire, and they had a second umpire looking through the fence, calling service lines, okay, with some distancing. They gave each player a tent, okay, and so I think that was fantastic what UTR did, because they certainly showed a role model of some of these enforcement. It wasn't perfect, okay, but it was very good in displaying that we can compete. I mean, this is at the I don't know if there was prize money involved in that, but this is not the recreational way to do this, okay? But they did show we can get out there, we can play tennis, pros can play tennis, we can do it safely as possible. It did take a private court to pull that off, okay? But that was so good. And then, like you said, there's going to be more. UTR is going to be a pioneer here and have a men's and a women's event in this country soon. And Germany's going to open up with things like this. USTA has, I think, correctly shut down tennis until, I believe, August 1st at this point. Okay, so and nearly every national tournament has been cancelled or postponed, and even postponed. It's like the pros. There's no other dates to put these things in, so they're going to be. We got to take the year off really when we get down. Even Nadal said that. I'd be happy. We just say we just cancel 2020 and we go to 2021. But there's a lot of people trying to make the living and put a dinner on the table. It's not his problem there. So. There's another viewpoint there. But I do think what UTR is doing is pioneer right now, yeah.
And do you think that's how we're going to see junior tennis return?
Well, if you have junior tennis return using those models, you're going to have to cut draw sizes down. I mean, Kalamazoo at 196 isn't going to fly. And 196, boys 16s and boys 18s, you've effectively got, 400 people there at the top of the pyramid at the pinnacle of their career, and that leaves 800 parents and 1,600 grandparents that want to travel and watch.
Coaches and
900 volunteers in their community,
officials, and you
don't think Kalamazoo would get a spike if they did it as they've previously been doing it. Can you reduce the draw sizes? Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to have to be doing that. I think 64 and up draw sizes is putting too many people in one place. 32 might have some game, especially, even when we get to the green phase. I think you want to have 32 people in a draw and only one parent and one coach, and that's it. There's going to have to be restrictions. Aussie Open is pretty much headed toward only Australians can be spectators to reduce.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, Craig Tiley's out there doing a good job. He's looking at everything. He's the TD. He's the big shot out in Aussie, and he learned the tricks of his trade here at the University of Illinois. So
I was gonna say, former college coach. Yeah, gotta love it.
And won nationals. So he's transferring some knowledge there, and he's doing a good job. So he's looking at the model of Aussie, the AO being no international visitors apart from one parent, one coach, or whatever limits he puts on it. US Open will surely look at that model. I mean, they're a go right now, but they can't be a go with every event that they have there and the size of their draws. Right. And my goodness, the money that's at stake. Obviously, the economy starts coming in, blending with safety on that one, but they're going to have cutbacks. I mean, whether they even happen on that date, whether they move to Indian Wells, which I really don't see happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'd be great for me, but I don't think it's happening either. Yeah.
No, it doesn't solve all the problems either. Okay. It just simply doesn't. I know New York's epicenter right now, but let's pray that they come through fast, and by that time that they're in some kind of new normal. But you got to have cutbacks, these draw sizes and this amount of travel. Another thing with the Aussie Open, US Open, the police can't handle it. The security system can't handle managing these amount of people. That's why gatherings are getting cancelled. Okay. Yeah. Let alone, airports are really not the greatest place to be right now. And
right.
I'm not. I mean, I saw yesterday. The airplane. The air company did absolutely everything to not have anyone in the middle row and provide social distancing. And then they gave away 50 tickets to health workers to be in the front line. The only place them to sit is the front row. So that's a bit oxymoronic right there, but it'll get better. These restrictions are now, and they'll taper off, and hopefully there's not a noticeable second wave.
Yeah.
But there will be cutbacks.
But so what are you hearing in terms of even starting up local tournaments? I mean, USTA has introduced this new junior competition structure with 7 levels of tournaments to take effect in January. But right now we have no tournaments, of any level. Do you think that we're going to start to see some localized junior competition coming back on the calendar in August even?
Well, I think before that as well, because those are USTA events. So locally, as a non-sanctioned event, while still supporting the governing body of the sport and making every attempt to strive for perfection and follow their guidelines, we're looking at putting on some local tournaments with restrictions. Okay.
Oh, what does that look like?
I mean, it's not a done deal right now, so we just don't know what the response is going to be. But whereas, say, the high school tournament in this area would have had 32 people in it, maybe we could do an unofficial one with 16 people, okay, and restrictions and give people a chance to compete what they dreamed for and practiced for over many years and invested in. So I think locally you're going to see some, just like the UTRD. Why can't we just copy that? Have 8 people and have 2 courts, and everyone's 10 foot away from each other through the whole duration, and sanitizing the whole time. I mean, it's not over, is it? We just have to make cutbacks, and not everyone's gonna get to play in that. But if we provide some outlet, our competitive people won't be hopping fences and cutting padlocks.
Right. Well, I mean, one of the things that was brought up to me about the UTR event, the pro event that happened down in Florida, was the level of tennis was definitely lower than what we're used to seeing from our professional players. I mean, because nobody's competed for several weeks. We're going to see that same thing with the juniors, right? When they get back to competition, they haven't been in a competitive situation for several weeks now. Not only mentally should we expect to kind of see some, kind of ramping up, but physically also, they're not going to have the stamina. It's not like they've had a gradual return to training in the heat, playing in the heat, those types of things. So are there things that you're recommending to your players, Andy, to help them get prepared to be ready to hit the ground running once there is a competitive opportunity for them?
Sure. Look at the race to 4 format is very predominant in college tennis in the fall right now. Okay. Anything ITA's managing, and ITA kind of governs college tennis till March the 1st, and then the NCAA takes over with their conferences. And you got race to 4. It's controversial, but there's some popularity to it, and there's certainly some benefits under a pandemic thing. So race to 4, you can move things through, like they did yesterday. They pioneered that in Florida and showed you that race to 4. They didn't complain about it. And those,
Right.
level of play there. I mean, it's still, top 50 in the world. Just it wasn't top 10, but it was top 50. So you got the big ball getting hit.
Well, I'm talking more about in, not the level of the players themselves in terms of their ranking, but just the fact that they hadn't been competing for several weeks. They were a little rusty, and our juniors are going to be a little rusty when they get back out there. And I think it's important for everybody to kind of understand that mindset that, from the parents to the coaches to the players themselves, know that when you get back out to compete, it's not going to look like it looked prior to COVID-19. It's going to take a while.
So go slow but sure but safe. Okay. And as pros, let's do instead of single privates, 2-person privates where they can trade a live ball, keep a little bit of score, and slowly get through that rust. Okay, I mean, you can start it pretty good with a 2-to-1 ratio, and also that helps the parents' finances. Okay, they've not been earning money now. I just cut your lesson cost in half with that idea. So I mean, it's going on; it's not new, but increase that because you can have point play.
Yeah, and coached point play, which is awesome for the players to have that input in real time, not going back and watching a video of a match that you played 3 days ago. This is in the moment coaching, what just happened on that point. You were standing here, he was standing there, you hit the ball there, he hit the ball here. How could you have played that differently? It's invaluable. And it's one of those things that I've actually been preaching for years on Parenting Aces. Get these kids out playing matches and pay the coach to be there and coach them during the match and give them real-time feedback so that they can internalize what's happening in the moment. It's a great experience.
Every corner of that parent, student, coach, equilateral triangle loves that stuff.
Right. But people haven't been utilizing that. And now is kind of a real great opportunity to start to incorporate more of that into your child's junior development program, whatever that looks like for you.
Sure. And if we do more of that, we'll come out stronger.
Absolutely. So where are we headed? What are you seeing over the next, 2 to 4 weeks and beyond, Andy?
Well, you're certainly seeing the twilight zone with some people playing tennis on the courts. Okay. And that's a beautiful thing. I think we got to see how it plays out. We have all these guidelines. We have good advice from our governing body and our associations, and hopefully that trickles through the clubs. And we just trust the CDC and follow their recommendations. If we do that and we don't get a second wave of note, then we can increase doing that. We can keep these courts filled. But if we get it wrong, we're going right back to the start, and it'll be a rougher time. So I see a little less sanctioned tournament, a little more local play happening, and I see co-ed. No reason to separate the genders quite as much right now when your goals have changed. I'm a bit concerned for college tennis. I don't quite know how they're going to get back. I don't know how they can travel in a van together.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's all kind of, and there's budgetary constraints. And fortunately, we've not seen any more. You could count the programs on one hand right now that have taken a step backwards. I hope it stays that way and doesn't get worse. But that's better than usual, to be honest with you. Okay?
Yeah.
So, I don't know if they're going to be traveling to compete in 2020, and if they have if they have online schooling in the fall, you know, then there's no football, is there? You're not going to campus to be in person.
Right. Although I've seen some conversations saying that if they have online classrooms, football may still happen, which I don't really understand how that is, but okay.
I mean, I think they'll push there'll be cutbacks. They'll be streaming, watching. They'll push the date. You know, they'll practice in September and play in October, November, December, maybe January. They'll push the date on to go, you know, to go into the safer area. But I don't know. I can't picture a big college football game without a crowd.
Right. And I mean, the revenues aren't going to be there if it's not football as usual, right? And tennis relies on football and basketball revenue, as we've all learned through this process. We've been talking about this kind of ad nauseum. In the college world, you know, if you're a non-revenue sport, you need football and basketball to happen to fund you. And we didn't have basketball, and we don't know if we're having football, but even if we do have football, what's it going to look like? Is there going to be enough revenue generated to cover the non-rev sports, and, you know, tennis among them? So, yeah, I mean, Andy, I think you're absolutely right. We've, you know, thankfully not seen or heard of many schools cutting tennis through this pandemic, which, you know, I'm really, I feel this pride toward the college athletic directors and the tennis coaches and the budget people at the collegiate level, really not, you know, jumping the gun and making cuts before they know what the landscape's going to look like. At the same time, I think we have to be realistic, and, you know, things are definitely going to be different for the 2020-2021 academic year.
I'd include high school in there, obviously, right alongside college. I mean, we don't want to see one cut anywhere. You know, USTA's got a no cut thing. I'm not sure if coaches with girls tennis in the fall in this area can carry 28 kids. Okay, you've lost your whole social distancing situation there. If you've got the courts and the assistant pros, then you could have a JV team and you can keep that number. But if it's cutbacks, it's cutbacks. But let's not make it cutouts. I'm not hearing too much negative in the high school area, but it's unknown right now. You know, I mean, if they don't go to school, I don't think there's going to be full sports.
Yeah. I think it would be very difficult to justify having athletic teams compete with one another when you can't have kids in the classroom. So,
and they're going to need a new budget item called hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
It's going to be a large one.
Yeah. If they can even get it, right? We still can't even get it.
Yeah. We're making it. We're going around the stores and making it around here, and coming up with a solution for that. But I mean, you need it, or Lysol or Clorox. You need something happening. Right, for sure. The virus is determining everything we're doing, not so much the governing authorities. It's the virus. If the virus would just go away, we can get back to something like normal.
There we go. Sorry. So I was saying the virus really is controlling everything, exactly as you said, Andy. And, you know, I would just like to say it sounds to me, Andy, as if you feel very encouraged by early actions of the tennis world getting back on the court, that people seem to be getting back on the court in a way that makes sense, that's safe, you know, that we can kind of build on as we move forward, but it's going to be contingent on people following the guidelines, following the rules. And it only takes one sick person at a facility exposing a whole group of other not sick people to wreck it for everybody. So please, 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 you know, if you are going to go back out to the courts, make sure you don't have a fever. Take your temperature before you go out there. It's so simple. Oh, Michael's posting a question here. He says, I might have missed it, but any suggestions for high school coaches for distancing and best practices, hand washing, equipment cleaning? Andy, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think I understood the question. I mean, you've just got to carry hand sanitizer on your belt. Okay, you just constantly constantly sanitize everything. The tennis balls, you reduce the amount that you use, because in a cart of balls, you're not going to get the whole sphere. I mean, you're going to have to put them in a basket and put them in the dryer and put them in a microwave and do things like that. But carry hand sanitizer and make people wash their hands nonstop. I don't know if that fully answered the question, but that's...
Well, he was asking about distancing too, and it was just kind of what you were talking about before. To have 28 kids on a team where there are no cuts just might not be feasible right now. That you might have to have smaller teams, or have multiple teams that are at the courts at staggered times, so that you can maintain that social distancing.
Yeah, I'd promote the no cut. Stagger your times. If you've got 3 hours, then one group comes for an hour and a half and goes out of a different exit gate, and the other group comes in the entrance gate, after the hour and a half. It might be a half hour less for your top players, but it provides, 14-14, it provides tennis for 28 people there. Right. If that makes sense. I mean, the no cut thing is completely dependent on the amount of courts, the amount of time, and the amount of coaches you have. If you have an assistant coach that can run a second session JV, or whatever you want to call it, you got a little bit more lateral. But if you've got 2 courts, everything we just said is just not happening.
Right. So yes, Michael, to answer your question, staggering practices makes perfect sense, and it's a great idea. In terms of equipment cleaning, one of the things that I heard is to change your grip after every time you play. So when the kids leave the court, they should come onto the court with a plastic bag. And before they leave the court, they should, for the boys, change shirts. If it's feasible for the girls to have a way that's modest or whatever to change shirts, throw all your dirty stuff, your wristbands, your socks, your dirty shirts, your dirty towel into a plastic bag, seal it up, throw away your overwrap on your grip and replace it with a fresh one, when you go out to play the next time. The balls, if the players themselves are bringing balls out onto the courts, when they're done, either they put them into a ball recycling bin, or they put them, into a plastic bag that then gets sanitized once they get home. I mean, there are going to be all these extra steps that we have to take. It's not tennis as usual right now, but it can be tennis, right? We can play.
Sure, the grip thing is absolutely spot on. I mean, maybe we get frustrated as coaches when the kids start putting the grip on when you start in the lesson. Okay, it should be done at home. Now it must be done at home. Okay.
Yeah.
So but careful here, because pro shops might not be open. We might not be able to sell you those grips. Okay. I just think if you spray everything down and mark your equipment, like you bring 3 balls, put a red dot on them. Mm-hmm. That didn't used to be popular among pros, but now it's going to have to be. Okay, let's get red, blue, black dots on them, and you can look at a ball and see if it's your one. If it's your one, you can touch it. If it's not, you can't. When it goes in that plastic bag or can, just spray it down. Okay, yeah. and spray it down again and again and again, and then you can reuse them.
Right.
The washing machine can kill these germs as well. Okay, so
right, absolutely.
Pros can put their tennis balls in a string bag, put some towels in there, put some sprinkle a little Clorox in there, and wash them and let them hang out to dry, and you've got effectively a fresh tennis ball. I mean, new balls are favored, but they don't. Sure. You don't have to pay money all the time for new.
Right, and that's a great point too. Again, it's not tennis as usual, but at least it's tennis, and we're giving you some suggestions and guidelines to help you stay safe and virus-free as any of us can right now. There's still so much we don't know about the virus, and what we do know changes every day. So that's, again, I want to reinforce the fact that today's guidelines may change tomorrow or next week. And so everybody needs to kind of stay on top of things, make sure you're in, if you're a player or a parent, make sure you're in constant communication with your director at your club to understand what today's guidelines are before you go out there. And just because you played yesterday under one set of guidelines doesn't mean those are the same today. just clarify and make sure you're doing what you need to do to keep everybody safe. And we want to protect you coaches too. I mean, it's not just about protecting the players.
Let me add something to that on-court situation. Unfortunately, with kids, they don't always take everything home, and they leave things behind, and they figure it'll be in lost and found. There's no more lost and found. Okay, you leave something behind. Okay, you know, we're effectively not touching it. It's going to get discarded. So, kids, adults, and me, don't leave. The days of lost and found are over. Okay, take your stuff with you, or say goodbye to it.
Yeah, great point. Great point. Anything else, Andy, that we need to talk about before I let you get back to your day?
No, if there's a question or two out there, I'd be happy. Otherwise, you know, I want to email anyone that wants all that stuff we've talked about, the guidelines that I have. But the resources at USTA, at USPTA are extensive. You know, strive. We always teach strive. I don't think we should teach striving for perfection. We should teach striving for excellence. And this time, it's going to be excellence plus, isn't it? Because, like you said, you know, perfection's a tough thing on a kid to try and reach. But one slip here, and we're back to the red zone.
Right.
Wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. Don't touch your face.
I love it. Andy, thank you so much. And again, for those of you watching, if you want a copy of the release that Andy's using with his players, if you just type your email address in the comments, I will get your email address to him and we'll get that information to you directly. If you're hearing this on our podcast, you can email me, lisa@parentingaces.com, if you want a copy of that release, and I'll be happy to send it to you. It's a waiver, I guess, a waiver. And I'll be happy to pass that along to Andy, and he'll get the waiver to you. So thanks, you guys, for tuning in. And Andy, thank you for taking some time out of your Monday. And I know you're busy.
Lisa, thank you for everything you do for the sport. I know you've been doing it almost as long as me, and you're doing a wonderful job out there. Keep it up.
Thanks. Same to you. Everybody have a great week. I'm sure we'll be back at some point this week with another live. Just stay tuned in, and we'll see you later. Stay safe.